Good morning. I'm David Hanson, head of the Department of English. Welcome to the Common Read. Today we welcome Joshua Foer, author of Moonwalking with Einstein, to Southeastern Louisiana University. This is the 11th year of the Common Read, sponsored by the Department of English, the Southeastern Writing Center, and the Student Government Association. Thank you to all of those sponsors for bringing some of the best writers in America to Southeastern every semester. I want to welcome some visitors to campus. Some of our dual enrollment classes are here. Ponchatoula, Franklinton, St. Thomas, and Riverside. Welcome to Southeastern's campus. Also, some of the DE classes are watching by live stream, Fontainebleau in particular. A welcome to them as well. A reminder about what's coming up. At 11 o'clock, Josh Foer will hold a Q&A, and this is your chance to tap this best of all possible resources for your research paper. No better resource than the author himself. And then at 6:30 this evening, Josh will give another Q&A as well as a reading and a book signing with a reception in the lobby with dinner for you. All of you have been studying Moonwalking with Einstein in your classes, and so we always begin the Common Read Day with you, the students, so that you can tell us what you have learned about Joshua Foer's writing. Let me alert you to some good work by students that are on display in the lobby. There's comics and other artwork by Sherry Craig's class, and on the screen as you came in, there were PowerPoints with comics by Bruce Kraft's classes and also by Sherry Craig's. For those of you who are still working on your research papers about moonwalking, we encourage you to submit your papers when finished for publication in our student magazine, The Pick. So first I'm going to introduce Heather Botsford, who will introduce our student presentations, and following the presentations, Joshua Foer will comment. Please turn off your cell phones. And following the presentations, for those of you who are getting credit for class, there are sign-up sheets in the lobby. And now let me introduce Heather Botsford, who will introduce our speakers.
I'd like to welcome Kevin Zybert to the stage, and he's going to read his essay on Moonwalking with Einstein. Come on, Kevin.
So I'm gonna be honest, when I submitted this essay to be in this competition, I really didn't know that the prize was gonna be to stand in front of an audience to actually give this presentation. But hey, you only live once. Title is, We Forgot How to Remember the Art and Science of Mnemonics. The technique of mnemonics, a skill used to aid memorization, is not practiced like it used to be in centuries past. In Joshua Foer's book, Moonwalking with Einstein, The Art and Science of Remembering Everything, he discusses how remembering is both an art and a science. To know whether mnemonics is either a science or an art, one must find an understanding of both terms. According to New Webster's Dictionary, the definition of science is knowledge reduced to a system, the facts pertaining to any department of mind or matter, and their due connections. Skill result from training, science. Mnemonics takes a tremendous amount of training to master. It also takes a lot of time to learn and perfect the systems that assist memory. However, memory is also an art. New Webster Dictionary states the definition of art: practice, skill, a system of rules for certain actions, cunning, profession of a painter, etc. Art. Mnemonics is a complex system of rules for minds of mental athletes used in order to successfully retain information. Is it a form of an expression is used to recall material on a shopping list, a to-do list, or a college test. This can be extremely helpful to all people, but it's something that has almost gone extinct. Mnemonics used to be popular when a written word did not exist. At that time, the only way to recite poetry or give speeches was to remember them verbatim. Scholars did that using mnemonics. People do not often know or use mnemonics today due to writing, books, and technology. These luxurious items and actions have dramatically slowed down the art and science of remembering everything. Although mnemonics is both an art and a science, it is more science than an art and should be practiced more worldwide. The science of mnemonics is not practiced as carefully as it was in a time when orators relied on memory for giving speeches. Most people today only have the capability to remember 5 through 9 items at a time. This is because people repeat the same items in their head in order to make them stick to memory. Joshua Foer writes, "Most people remember those 7 plus or minus 2 numbers by repeating them over and over again to themselves in a phonological loop, which is just a fancy name for a little voice that we can hear inside of our head when we talk to ourselves. The phonological loop acts as an echo, producing a short-term memory buffer that can store sounds for just a couple of seconds. Most people can only remember 5 through 9 items at a time because of the phonological loop. Most people do not use the system of mnemonics for memory because they've forgotten how. Most people have forgotten how to practice the science of mnemonics. Most of them don't know what it is. Mnemonics is a system of rule that allows someone to put items into certain places in their brain. The brain uses different abilities to use mnemonics. These abilities are visualization, used to get a better picture, and spatial awareness, the ability to store those pictures. In Mnemonics, The Forgotten Art of Memory, Stephen Handel states, "Mnemonics can be often broken down into 2 main abilities: visualization, the ability to create a visual representation of what you want to remember and see it clearly in your mind's eye, and spatial awareness, the ability to store each visualization in an orderly mental space. Many who practice mnemonics create what is known as a memory palace. A memory palace is spatial awareness, the place where images are stored. A memory palace is a well-used technique that helps people walk through a special place in one's mind to find what they need to remember. This is the science behind remembering everything, and there are different ways to remember different types of information. Chunking is a way to remember phone numbers by breaking down large numbers into groups so it's not as hard to remember. Song is a way to remember many words at a time. Foer states, "Finding patterns, structures, and information is how our brains extract the meaning from the world, and putting words into music and rhyme are ways of adding extra levels of pattern and structure. The reason we teach kids the alphabet in song instead of 26 individual letters. Songs, patterns, and rhyme are amazing tools to help humans remember. This allows people at an early age to remember stuff like the alphabet and how to find their head, shoulders, knees, and toes on the body. Mnemonics is a superb form of remembering everything, but there's another way. Although technology is one of the biggest reasons we do not have to remember, it can also be one of the greatest tools in order to remember. In Joshua Foer's book, Moonwalking with Einstein, he speaks about an old computer scientist named Gordon Bell. Mr. Bell has invented a special technology that lets him record every moment, text, and phone call in his life. And he hopes to further advance that technology to solve memory loss completely. Foer writes, "The next step in is a brain-computer interface that lets the mind exchange data directly with a digital memory bank, a project that a few cutting-edge researchers have already begun working on, and which is bound to become a major area of research in decades ahead. Mr. Bell hopes to invent a program that he can successfully run data from to someone's mind straight to a memory bank so it can never be forgotten. This would be a cutting-edge technological advancement that would completely change the world. Combining science with the mind could help people with brain injuries that have problems remembering. However, no matter how great the technology, it may never be able to compare to the human mind. The human mind is one of the most amazing and complex structures in the universe, and it can hold an incredible amount of information that has been stored up for years." Foer writes, "What makes a brain such an incredible tool is not just the sheer volume of information it contains, but the ease and efficiency with which it can find that information. It uses the greatest random accessing index system ever invented. One computer scientist haven't even come close to replicating. Indeed, the brain is an astonishing tool that computer scientists have been trying for years to replicate, and no matter what scientists can invent, it will always fall short of the human brain. The science of mnemonics and human brain far surpasses that of modern technology. Sadly, many people have forgotten how to remember. Mnemonics is an amazing science, but it is also an art that people do not use anymore. This is mainly due to the written language and modern technology. These things have a great effect on society, for they have forgotten how to remember. Stephen Handel states, mnemonics was once a common art of using particular techniques to improve the strength of your memories. These techniques were popular back when people really needed to rely on their mind's ability to keep track of information. Indeed, mnemonics was once a very popular practice to exercise the brain. This lost art is used very little today because most people simply do not need to remember. Nonetheless, the lost art of mnemonics should be practiced more worldwide in order to preserve precious memory. Although mnemonics is not practiced as much as it used to be, that does not make it a less efficient tool. It's a powerful one to have in one's arsenal. To be able to put images to objects or actions is key to remembering. In the article, The Statue Debate, Ancestors and Mnemonic Energy, in Paul and Now, Zorzai Doob talks about the memory that ties society to a history along the message of how powerful memory is. Doob states, hence, mnemonic energy functions as some sort of ritualistic power embedding the material objects or images demanding and propelling history into a particular direction. Doob refers to mnemonics as an energy of a spiritual-like power. It is a powerful tool to use remembering as important aspects of life. This is precisely why the art of mnemonics should be used more worldwide. Society needs to practice the lost art more and have more of an imagination. Practicing memory is similar to like making a sculpture. The more the artist sculpts, the better they become at the trade. Memory is the same way. The more one practices seeing the images in their own mind, the better they get at remembering. The more images they put, the more imagination they put to those images, the better. Foer states in his book, memory is like a spider web. When it catches new information, the more it catches, the bigger it grows, and the bigger it grows, the more it catches. Practice is essential to memory. Forming a memory palace takes time to do, and that takes a lot of practice, but it has great rewards. The better the palaces are known, the easier it will be to recall information from them. This is precisely why it should be practiced more. Most memory palaces are places that are well known to people, like a childhood home. However, not all places have to be from childhood. A palace can be a place that is completely made up as long as it can be remembered. In Sarah Zelinsky's article, The Secret of Sherlock's Mind Palace, she talks about the mind palace and how it works. She states, it might also be possible to create a mind palace from a structure built entirely within the mind, says Christopher Madden, a co-author of the study. It is probably a bit harder to do if you had a real place, because it adds another thing to remember, but he says, a person with a lot of complex information to remember, and maybe a particularly gifted mind, says the British sleuth, might be able to construct a palace tailor-made for that type of information. It is possible to create a palace that does not exist in this world. It would take a very gifted and artistic mind to create a mind palace from scratch, but it's probably best to do to store a lot of complex information. Only people who are well practiced in the art can pull off such an incredible feat, such as creating a completely new mind palace. This is why mnemonics should be practiced more across the world. Mnemonics is both an art and a science. It is a science because of the facts of the mind and a skill acquired from training. It is art because of the cultured history and imagination that goes into it. Foer writes, the art and science of memory is about developing the capacity to quickly create images like disseparate ideas. Creativity is the ability to form similar connection between disseparate images and create something new and hurl it into the future so it becomes a poem, a building, a dance, or a novel. Creativity is, in a sense, future memory. Indeed, mnemonics is an art and a science. The reason it's more science is mnemonics is facts of the mind, and it is a constant practice to keep high level of memory. But whether it's either an art or a science, it is still a wonderful concept that should be taught to all. The art and science of mnemonics should be remembered. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. So next we have a video by Asim Mal. Next, I'd like to welcome Ania Johnson to the stage.
Good morning. I didn't know it was this many people, so I'm kind of nervous, so just bear with me. So I decided to do a visual art of a memory palace, but instead I decided to do an oral presentation because I felt like it was something that should be remembered. Like if you store it there, then it shouldn't, go away from you. It should stick. So my major is nursing, and I chose to do it on the steps of trying to remember how to take blood from a patient. And I used my own childhood home. So I'm just gonna start and just go ahead and tell y'all. So I'm gonna close my eyes so I can actually visualize it. So bear with me. So as I'm walking up my driveway, I see a tree on the left that has a warning sign, and there is the first step with remembering all of the tools. You have your containers for your blood, you have your tourniquet, you have your needle, you have your alcohol wipes, your band-aids, and everything. As I'm walking up to the front door of my home, it's like you're greeting the patient or introducing yourself to make them feel comfortable and warm. As I walk in, I walk up to my coffee table and I visualize a person sitting there as I'm applying the tourniquet to their arm. The next step is me walking up to the love seat, and I don't know, it's kind of weird, but I was looking for the remote, so that made me remember the step of checking for the veins to see where you're going to puncture. So as I go on to the kitchen, there's like 2 steps there, so I visualize myself cleaning or sweeping to help me remember cleaning to puncture the area. So as I walk up the steps, I'm pulling off the chair and then I'm like sitting up to the table. So that helped me remember the step of actually inserting the needle into the area. And as I get up, pushing the chair back, I'm removing the needle. And as I walk into the kitchen, the first section was the dining room. As I'm walking into the kitchen, I'm packing up leftovers from like dinner or something, and I'm walking over to the sink to clean off the test tubes or whatever the containers may be, as if I'm washing dishes after the lunch. And then the last step would be me walking out the back door, which is sending the blood out to be tested and wherever it needs to go. And that's basically my example of a memory palace.
Thank you, Ania. That was great. We have one bonus video that we're going to show. This is from Jennifer Longina.
There have been so many surreal experiences that I've had since writing this book. Because you write a book, you don't know who's going to read it, if anybody's going to read it, if only your mother's going to read it. And then it goes out into the world, and people read it, but they're like reading it off, on their couch or on their bed or at their desk, and like you don't hear from them or know how they're experiencing it or what they're thinking about when they're reading it. And then to come here and listen to those presentations was really an amazing experience for me. And I want to thank all of you for engaging with the book and with the ideas in it to the extent that you did. Kevin, that essay was terrific. I mean, that was as smooth and seamless a presentation of the ideas in the book as I've heard. So congratulations and thank you for that. Asen, you captured the moment when I realized, oh my God, I have to actually do this again, the World Memory Championships. That was actually what I was feeling. And I didn't really write about it in the book that much, but I went to the World Championships and thinking like, the United States of America, we should be the best in the world at this, right? And completely got destroyed by just about everybody, with the exception of the French guy, which I was really pleased about. I beat the French guy. I have to say, since writing this book, one of the tremendously exciting outcomes of this is that a bunch of people read the book and said, hey, I want to try that, and started training their memories, and then entered this contest. And the champion of Mongolia, interestingly enough, who's number 3 in the world, a young woman, got into this because she read this book. And the American champion, a guy named Alex Mullen, who is now the world champion, also got into it from reading this book. And I used to make jokes about how bad America was at the sport of competitive memory. We're now the best in the world, which is as it should be. And then I also want to thank Anya. I feel like I am now prepared to phlebotomize. And I think what you will find is, having created that memory palace to help you remember those initial steps, and this is true of like any test that you're studying for, that memory palace is really helpful at the beginning. But what will ultimately happen is, as you do this thing over and over again, is you won't need the memory palace. It's like the scaffolding on a building that they have to put up the scaffolding to help construct the building. But then once everything's painted, it's like you don't need that scaffolding anymore, and things will just kind of happen automatically. And then Jennifer, I want to thank you for that animation. I got to learn how to this animation tool because that was really fun, and totally again surreal to see this thing that happened to me in real life now all of a sudden like being animated by some college student in Louisiana halfway across the country. It's really an amazing experience for me, and I'm looking forward to being here today with all of you and to continue to talk about and explore these ideas with all of you. And this is a great honor, so thank you very much.